Dollars of taxpayer-funded advertisements for clearly political purposes. A partisan appointment of the Secretary of the Treasury, and now collusion in a taxpayer-funded roadshow for partisan purposes dressed up as a House of Representatives committee. This government knows no limits when it comes to desperate political tactics to cover their lack of achievements, their lack of vision. Their willingness to engage in taxpayer-funded political advertising knows no bounds. Now, as Matt has correctly pointed out, Tim Wilson has no choice but to resign, and if he won't resign, the Prime Minister should sack him. This is a clear and fundamental breach of convention, of understanding, and, frankly, of standing orders. Now, David Coleman would report to the House of Representatives Committee every hearing that he had an interest in banks. Tim Wilson chaired this committee, heard evidence from Geoff Wilson with Tim Wilson in the chair, and didn't think it was appropriate to declare any conflict of interest at all. I mean, this is just a joke. But not only was Tim Wilson appointed by Scott Morrison as chair, but this committee was instigated by Josh Frydenberg. The hearing was instigated by Josh Frydenberg. A letter from Josh Frydenberg to Tim Wilson set this sham inquiry up. So Josh Frydenberg has to disclose today, did he know about the arrangements between Geoff Wilson and Tim Wilson to schedule taxpayer-funded hearings to coincide with a financial roadshow by Geoff Wilson, so as Geoff Wilson put it in this leaked audio, they could arrange a little protest. They could get their investors to engage in a quote-unquote little protest at the House of Representatives Economics Committee. Now, the House of Representatives Economics Committee has a long-standing tradition. When I first entered Parliament, I was Deputy Chair of the committee. We worked as much as possible in a bipartisan fashion looking at difficult issues, important issues for the country. There would be, from time to time, differences of policy. But there was a spirit of wanting to do some good policy work. And Labor and Liberal members would agree on what issues should be attacked in terms of Senate of House of Representatives committee inquiries. We would work on policy issues. As the government was sending this referral for this unprecedented inquiry into Labor Party policy to the committee, Matt and his Labor colleagues were trying to get established an inquiry into low wages growth in Australia. The government said no, we don't want to know about low wages growth. We don't want an inquiry into that. We want this inquiry into Labor Party policy, unprecedented, utterly unprecedented in committee history, not just this committee, but committee history more broadly. So Josh Frydenberg's got to disclose what he knew about the collusion between the two Wilsons, what he knew about the establishment of this committee being coordinated with Geoff Wilson. We know that they've met, that the Treasurer and Geoff Wilson have met. They've put photos out boasting about it. And did they discuss this collusion at those meetings? That's what Josh Frydenberg should be disclosing today. Now, as this sorry saga continues, there are real issues facing the Australian economy. We've seen the Reserve Bank downgrade growth forecasts. We know that there's an impact from the low wages growth. Consumers are borrowing more. Households are borrowing more. They are concerned about their economic security. As wages growth continues to stagnate at record lows, people are borrowing more with our household debt at record levels, second highest in the developed world. These are all issues concerning the Reserve Bank, concerning all of us who care about the future of the economy. Nothing from Josh Frydenberg, nothing from the government, just this continual taxpayer-funded scare campaign. Well, there are big issues facing the Australian economy, as I outlined in my speech in Melbourne on Monday night. Big issues facing the Australian economy. We relish the economic debate. We'll be going to this election talking about the 1.1 million underemployed Australians. We'll be talking about the record low wages growth. We'll be talking about record high household debt. We'll be talking about how this economy is not working for working people, about how Labor has the better plans. I invite Josh Frydenberg to join in that debate, but join in that debate without the crutch of taxpayer-funded advertisements and a taxpayer-funded roadshow of rallies against Labor policy. Engage in that debate on substance, and we welcome the debate and we welcome the election whenever the Prime Minister calls it. Matt and I would be happy to take questions.
Bowen, can I ask you about the franking credits issue generally? I guess some older Australians are concerned about it. You said, well, don't vote for me.
Not quite what I said, Andrew, in fairness.
Yeah, okay. So these are people who basically budget according to that policy. They've paid tax all their life, they've worked all their lives. By contrast, your negative gearing policy, you know, it's not grandfathered, so, you know, no one in that receiving that tax concession now.
Negative gearing is grandfathered.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, sorry, it is grandfathered. So, can you understand the concerns of these older Australians, I suppose, that this money's coming away from them if you're elected?
Well, I certainly understand the concerns of older Australians, and the Labor Party is being honest with people about our plans. That's the point I was making last week, unlike the Liberal Party. I mean, the Liberal Party said no change to the pension and then threw 100,000 people off the pension and reduced the pension for 300,000 people. They didn't have the guts to say that to older Australians at an election and let the people decide on their policies. They lied to the Australian people. They've lied to the Australian people continually. They didn't go to the Australian people at the last election and say, we want to put your tax up through a Medicare levy. They didn't. They imposed that after the election without a mandate. We're seeking a mandate from the Australian people for all our policies, for our investment in schools, our investment in preschools, our investment in health, for our investment in improving the superannuation outcomes of women. We're also seeking a mandate for our tax changes, which are carefully designed. And we're saying to the Australian people that there are difficult decisions necessary, but we're prepared to be honest about it. But the Liberal Party is not. And so this is the point we make. We'll seek the votes of every Australian. We take nothing for granted. We take no seat, no vote for granted. We ask for the votes of all. But we recognise that some people will have a different view, and we respect that. And we give the Australian people more respect than the Liberal Party by being upfront about our plans. Now, there are people who've said to me, I benefit from this arrangement, I benefit from franking credits, and I support your policy because I understand the reasons why. You know, I understand this is no longer sustainable. There's other people who don't agree with that. We respect their views. That's the point I make.
So will you move to refer in the House of Reps Tim Wilson for investigation?
I'll let Matt deal with that.
Yeah, I'll raise this matter in the Parliament next week, most definitely. We believe that it's a conflict of interest and a massive breach of the parliamentary guidelines and rules associated with the House Economics Committee. As to the manner in which we will do that, we're seeking advice at the moment, and we'll detail the actions that we'll take in the Parliament next week when it returns.
Does that apply whether or not he stands down as chair of the...
Well, we're calling on him to stand down as chair of the House Economics Committee. Oh, well, look, that's a matter for the Liberal Party. They've got 6 or 7 representatives on the committee, but only 2 or 3 of them show up. And Labor's been fully participating in this and other inquiries. We've sought to use the House Economics Committee as a means to get to the bottom of some of the serious economic issues facing the Australian people, like low wages growth, low rates of investment in businesses in Australia at the moment. The government's politicising this particular committee, wasting taxpayers' dollars, travelling around the country, trying to undermine a Labor policy at the behest of a company that the chairperson is a shareholder in. Now, Tim Wilson and Josh Frydenberg need to answer to the Australian public, is this the government's inquiry or is it Geoff Wilson's inquiry?
We might leave that media conference there in Sydney now to take you to some breaking news. And